and welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in Ghostwood Forest, patiently waiting for my first COVID vaccine shot tomorrow. Fingers crossed.
Hey, check it out.
Hey, right? But in the meantime, I'm here with all of you and my wonderful co-host who is ready to talk some more obscure ABC sitcom television, Xan Sprouse. How you doing, Xan?
Yeah, that's what I do. Obscure television. That's
your jam?
That's my forte.
Now, I realize things are a little subdued, probably because we got some bad news today.
We did. We got some very bad news.
We lost Jessica Walter.
We lost Mallory Archer. Yeah.
So hopefully Xan will grill me a cheese in her memory.
No, I will not grill you a cheese.
Grill me a cheese.
Oh, wait, Charles, I didn't even think about this, but
yes.
I got to get a prop for this just for you.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, so we lost Mallory Archer and we lost Lucille Bluth.
Yep.
From
Arrested Development.
Yeah. Arrested Development, yeah. And I said that we should all have a cocktail and a $10 banana as our memorial meal. Michael, it's one banana. What could it possibly cost? $10?
Yeah. I like that the Archer team came out with a statement on Twitter saying that Jessica Walter is the complete opposite of Mallory Archer in real life.
Yes, she is the complete opposite. She's a lovely, lovely person in real life. So,
but not the worst mother ever, according to our
not the worst
Sterling
mother
Archer.
ever. No, she's not going to deny her grandchild food because she thinks the baby is fat.
Right.
And she's not racist to the point.
Yeah, she's not fat shaming AJ. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And she's not racist against Lana either.
Right.
You can't marry her, a black ops agent. That's so here's what's going to be my Mallory Archer.
Although she did have a thing for Conway Stern, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, she did. So here, Charles, here's a visual for you.
Yes.
We're going to watch Vision Quest.
Vision Quest. Nice.
I don't know if you remember the Vision Quest team building exercise from Archer.
No, I don't. Refresh my memory on that.
Oh my gosh, where they're all like trapped in the elevator.
Uh-huh.
And then Mallory decides that they're going to do a team building exercise, and the team building exercise is they're going to watch a Vision Quest on VHS.
In the elevator.
We're going to watch Vision Quest. It's like just so random and bizarre.
Right.
That I love it. And I just would like to make it obvious that this is in fact my copy of Vision Quest on DVD.
Yes, so for all of you out there in podcast land who cannot see this, Xan actually does have a copy of Vision Quest that she's showing me right now on DVD.
Yeah. I have a copy of Vision Quest.
I guess that one sticks out for you like grilled me a cheese sticks out for me.
Yeah, that one really sticks out for me because it's so like I said, it's just so ridiculously random.
Right. It just
like why
you.
Like why Vision Quest, you know?
Right. Why not Vision Quest?
What is it about Vision Quest?
Oh my god. You actually have is that the soundtrack album?
Yes.
On vinyl?
Yes. The soundtrack to Vision Quest.
All right.
On vinyl, for sure.
I think just, the idea that you have the movie on DVD and the soundtrack on vinyl is probably way more Vision Quest than 99% of America.
Anybody has ever, except for me, yeah.
Yeah, except maybe the people who made Vision Quest probably don't even have that.
Except maybe Matthew Modine. So here's the thing about Vision Quest.
Yeah, what is the deal? Now you got me curious.
Matthew Modine's character in Vision Quest is a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a family of wrestlers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's that. Like my dad was a wrestler. His brothers were all wrestlers. My cousins were all wrestlers.
Like high school, college wrestling programs.
High school, college. And then me and my cousin were wrestling statisticians. So we did the whole wrestling. So wrestling's a big deal in our family. So the fact that Loudon's a wrestler is very cool. And we talked about this a couple of episodes last episode, because we've been on hiatus for a little bit because of drug cinema.
Right.
That I love Madonna.
Right.
And
yes.
Until I want to say I forget which best of, either the Immaculate Collection or the Something to Remember best of.
Okay.
I forget which one it was, but that was the only place. Yeah, the Immaculate Collection, which came out in
90s.
Yeah, in 1990. The Vision Quest soundtrack was the only way you could get the song "Crazy for You" unless you bought a single.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I was not Madonna fan, so obviously I've heard a lot of her music, and I know I've heard that song. So
Madonna had two songs that were
Crazy
in sound.
for You.
Bum, bum, ba, ba, da. Yeah, it's great love song. She had two songs that were available only through singles because they were on soundtracks.
Okay.
One of them was "Crazy for You," and the other one was "Into the Groove."
Oh, Get Into the Groove. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
You've got to prove your love to me. Those are not on.
Was that on the Desperately Seeking Susan soundtrack?
Desperately Seeking Susan.
All right. See,
yeah.
I should get points for that, for knowing that.
Yeah, that's excellent. Good job.
I should get Madonna points for that. Okay.
And Desperately Seeking Susan soundtrack score by Thomas Newman.
Okay.
I'm a big Thomas Newman fan too.
Got it. Okay. Well, that works.
So yes, but so we're gonna have to have a team building exercise and maybe watch Vision Quest. Rest in peace, Jessica Walter, because she's an interesting one. She had a career throughout the 60s and 70s as a character actress.
Yeah.
And then became hugely popular with Gen X and younger when she was in her 60s, her late 50s, early 60s as Lucille Bluth.
Right.
Because
Arrested Development was on Fox.
2003, like 2002 or 2003. So she would have been in her 60s.
Yeah.
And so she was Lucille Bluth, and then she's Mallory Archer, codenamed Duchess's mother.
Right.
So she had this real resurgence in popularity and a lot of fame that came to her when she was in her 60s.
Yeah.
So
she's just one of those actors that really hit it big when she was older and had a lot of younger followers.
Right. It's kind of like people like Melvin Douglas, who got this horror movie career when they were in their 70s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, she will be
probably also like Bernard Cribbins, the guy who played Wolf on Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. She was just so hilarious, deadpan, and perfect, and great voice actress. She's fabulous.
Yeah, I remember right now we're going through her old Wonder Woman DVDs, and Jessica Walter is in one of those. Which is pretty interesting to watch because it was kind of weird because I remember I was just looking at my iPad or something, and then I hear Mallory Archer's voice, and I'm like, wait a minute, and I look up and I'm like, holy crap, that's Jessica Walter. What is she doing on Wonder Woman?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, she was on all kinds of TV shows back in the day. I remember Chris and I were flipping channels one night, and it was an episode of the FBI with Ephraim Zimbalist.
Yeah.
And there she was. She was a flight attendant on that show. I mean, she just popped up all over the place. So
that's interesting.
She'd been in Hollywood for quite some time. So yeah, it's very.
I know she isn't very Twin Peaks or David Lynch related, but Xan and I are both big Archer fans. So I thought we should at least mention this.
Yeah, being big Archer fans, we have to at least
pay respects.
Pay some respects. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, like, what would be our 6 degrees of David Lynch for Archer and or Arrested Development?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
remember all roads lead through Jack Nance.
All roads do lead through Jack Nance. So I'm thinking
that's a good puzzle. I might have to work on this.
Yeah, we'll have to think about this one. We'll have to
connect Jessica Walter to David Lynch.
By the way, I wanted to mention this to you, Charles, because we're back to David Lynch actors.
Yeah.
I've been sort of, since the pandemic started, I've been sort of watching a lot of Law and Order because it's on constantly. And
yeah, you can't escape it. It's like a virus.
I realized there's about 15 years of Law and Order that I never watched.
How did that happen?
So I just kind of got burned out on it and started watching other things. And so now there's like a ton of them that I've never seen.
Okay.
So I've been sort of catching up on them. And I saw the episode with Gary Busey the other day. Remember I said that there are 2 actors who are in all 3 of the top longest running scripted TV shows in the history of television. And one of them is Gary Busey.
Right.
Gary Busey essentially plays Robert Blake in the episode that he's in.
Really? So it was one of those taken from real headlines.
Ripped from today's headlines.
Ripped from the headlines. So yeah, exactly.
Gary Busey plays a guy who's sort of a, no offense, Robert Blake, kind of a washed up star.
Right.
And Robert Blake was kind of washed up at the time.
TV star from a long time ago.
Yeah, there hadn't been any episode. I mean, I will say to the end of time that he steals Lost Highway.
Right.
He is the best performance in Lost Highway. He's fantastic. Doesn't mean he wasn't working a lot. So he was so Gary Busey plays this washed up star who has grown children, but marries some groupie that he got pregnant, and then she winds up murdered. So it was funny that he was the Robert Blake story, and here we were talking about Gary Busey being on Law and Order in the episode where we talked about the movie that he is in with Blake.
That's funny.
I thought that was pretty funny.
I suppose it's too much to ask that Gary Busey was in white kabuki makeup, like the Mystery Man.
That was a little too much to ask, yes.
Okay,
but
right.
His manager was played by Joe Piscopo, so it was like
That's
washed up actor Inception a little bit. So
pretty much interesting.
And Chris and I finally, for the first time, just watched the first John Wick movie.
The first what? I'm sorry.
And I don't know.
Skype was breaking up.
Oh, so. John Wick. The first John Wick movie.
Oh, you just now watched it? Because that was one of those I was kind of hoping you wouldn't, because we could save it for Drunk Cinema.
Okay.
That's
all
right.
Well, if you wanted to do that for Drunk Cinema, we'd have to start it 15 minutes late, because I cannot watch that dog get beat in the head by Theon Greyjoy again.
I understand. That's pretty rough.
Excellent performance as a crime scene cleaner by David Patrick Kelly.
Right.
So I was rather impressed. David Patrick Kelly's always fantastic. So just thought I'd give a little shout out that I've seen some more David Patrick Kelly movies.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the John Wick trilogy, so those movies are right in my wheelhouse. Totally.
Yeah, if somebody killed my cat, I would hunt them down and shoot them in the head.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to at least root for John Wick because he had good reasons. Like, killed his dog.
Yeah,
stole his car. So, yeah, that's reasons to kill somebody. I'd say so.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was totally
justified.
Totally justifiable homicide right there. So,
especially with that punk, like the son of the Russian. Son of the Russian mafia guy. That's Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones. Yeah, exactly.
Alfie Allen, Theon Greyjoy. Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was fun.
So I was like, I saw him and I'm like, he's up to no damn good.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. So lest anybody think that we're digressing way more than usual, here at episode 95, we're talking On the Air once again. Only this time we're talking episode 1.3. And
3, which was the second
that takes a little explanation. Yeah.
So again, only 3 if you were like me and living in the U.S. in 1992.
Right.
Only 3 of these episodes aired. Episodes 1, 1.3, and 1.5.
Yeah. And
they were chronological in the sense that 3 was aired before 5, but they did not air episode 1.2, and they did not air episode 1.4. And here's my theory.
Mm-hmm.
Because episode 1.2 sets up an underlying storyline where Lester Guy and Buddy Budwaller are trying to get
Betty
Hudson fired.
Yeah.
I think they sort of knew that they were going to axe this TV show. So they didn't show that. So we didn't have a backstory episode or a continuing storyline.
Oh,
episode.
So you thought that in an attempt to simplify this shortened series,
right?
They cut out the backstory episodes.
That's my theory.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good theory, I think, because you do get kind of thrown for it because the jump from the pilot, the Lester Guy show, in this episode where all of a sudden Lester Guy really hates Betty,
right,
is a little jarring if you're just watching 135.
Exactly, and we see that there's a little bit of a rivalry in this episode where we have I guess he's a male bellhop. I don't know.
The fan mail guy. Yeah, the guy that brings in the fan mail. That
in this cart full of fan mail for Betty, and then one postcard for Lester that basically says, since you work with her on the show, can you get Betty Hudson's autograph for me?
And he's like, he rips up the postcard. He's like, you idiots.
Yeah, he's like, he gets very Dr. Smith angry when he does that. So he,
big no.
Yeah, clinking, clattering collection of collisionist junk. So he,
the pain.
You know that there's a rivalry going.
Yeah.
The pain of it all.
The pain of it all.
So we know that's going on, but we didn't see the episode. We didn't see episode 1.2, which was essentially them, Buddy Budwaller and Lester Guy, trying to sabotage Betty's dinner with Mr. Zablotnik.
Right.
So we have a Mr. Zablotnik that is not David Lynch. And
okay.
Even
though he was David Lynch in the pilot, the voice.
Even though it was David Lynch's voice, yeah, we have an actual Mr. Zablotnik.
Oh, we do get to see him in person.
This.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, we do get to see him in person. He's got he's all the comedy tropes, bad toupee, don't mention it kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
So, I think they just wanted any sort of what we would refer to, if this were the X-Files, as an anthology episode.
Okay.
I think they probably don't want anthology episodes. So, that's where this one was going. But so what we did is we skipped ahead to episode 3, which we'll give you a little history lesson on as we talk further about this. Episode 3 it's interesting. It was directed by Jack Fisk and written by Robert Engels.
Right. Yeah. I was going to mention that. So obviously Robert Engels, co-writer of Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
And he also wrote a bunch of Twin Peaks episodes, including, just right off the top of my head, the One-Armed Man, Arbitrary Law, which was the great episode where Leland Palmer dies.
Right, where we find out who Bob has been
inhabiting and all that. Yeah, exactly that. And then Beyond Life and Death, he co-wrote that with I want to say Mark Frost and David Lynch, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's obviously the original series finale of Twin Peaks from 1991.
Right.
So pretty notable. And Jack Fisk, obviously, we've talked about here, when we talked to Racerhead as the man on the planet.
Yeah.
In an acting role.
Longtime friend and occasional brother-in-law of David Lynch.
Right. And he also later directed the On the Air episode 1.7, which also didn't get transmitted.
No, that did not get shown here in the United States.
Yeah. And he was the production designer on The Straight Story and Mulholland Drive.
Right. So this is a full-on Lynch crew for this time around.
Yeah.
And so what's happening here is, I said before in the last episode that what this show was doing really well was making fun of 50s tropes. And, doing that, skirting that fine line between homage and parody when it comes to 50s tropes.
Right.
And this episode was the trope of the rigged quiz show.
Yes.
From the 1950s. Now, let's give a little history lesson on the
rigged
quiz show.
History time with Xan.
Yes. Back in... Back in the 1950s, when the golden age of television, there were these game shows were extremely popular, and these quiz shows with big prizes they drew a lot of an audience. Think how everyone was excited to see how far Ken Jennings would go with Jeopardy.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
But think about that when there was only like 3 channels. And that's how
it's really big. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And one of the first shows like that was called The $64,000 Question, which has some interesting bits of history in it. Number one, that the first woman to win the $64,000 question, Dr. Joyce Brothers.
Get out! Seriously?
Yeah.
That's
Dr.
crazy.
Joyce Brothers.
Now, did the $64,000 question become the $64,000 pyramid?
That's a good question, because the $64,000 pyramid was the $25,000 pyramid back in the day.
Okay.
So I think the pyramid just like got more. It got pricier as this cost of living went up. It went up with inflation, I think.
I think that's probably why, in this episode, they pick 64,000.
That is exactly why they picked $64,000. Yes, right. Because on the quiz show in this episode, and what is the name of the quiz show?
Oh,
Charles.
You mean here in the show?
Yes.
It's hold on, I got it written down here. It's it's supposed to be like winner take all, but
winner took us all.
Yes, no, a wiener took us all, right? Is wiener took us all? Wiener took us exactly. All, yeah, with a U.
Once again, I was trying to get you to say wiener took us all.
Yeah.
Once again, we have the trope of laughing at foreigners because they talk funny.
Right.
So, which in this day and age of more cerebral comedy, that gets old real fast. So.
Yeah.
So winner take all, you could possibly win up to $64,000. Now, the problem with that is, where the hell are they going to get $64,000? And so Lester Guy has come up with the fact that not only is this rigged by the fact that they have Professor Answer, who can answer every question known to man, no problem.
Right.
But he's also going to donate his winnings to charity, which is a charity run by Lester Guy.
Which has no other members.
No other members. And so he's going to basically
so essentially
give the money right back.
He's going to give the money, because he has to explain this to Budwaller.
Right. He has to explain
because Budwaller's all pissed off. He's like, "What are you doing? Mr. Zlotnick's going to go flip out because you're going to cost us all this money." And he's like on my ass about about these budgetary restrictions already. So you can't. What are you doing? You're killing me here.
What are you doing? Just giving away $64,000. Right. So, like I said, the $64,000 question was one of the first big game shows in television history. And it's been referenced a few times in pop culture. Like, I'm sure you remember the scene in Stand By Me where they're all sitting around the fire talking about things that seemed important before you discovered girls.
Right.
And Gordy, Will Wheaton's character, says, the $64,000 question had to be rigged. There's no way anybody could know that much about opera. So the $64,000 question was in fact controlled, is what they called it. They would pick who they wanted to win and try and get them to either throw answers, or they would give them answers depending on who they wanted to win and who they wanted to lose. Right. And Dr. Joyce Brothers said, screw that. I'm going to answer these questions correctly whether you want me to or not. So
right.
I respect that about her. So then came along a TV show called 21. And 21 was kind of like this show, where not in the sense that we have somebody who's freaked out by loud noises, but people were not answering. They
it's
couldn't
you,
answer
right?
the question.
Just checking.
Yeah, it's me. It's totally me.
Okay.
I was never allowed to be a child. Who cares? So,
I love that, by the way.
Who cares?
He just snaps right at it. That was great.
So 21 is this failure of a TV show, because unlike Jeopardy, which has this vetting process where you have to take quiz after quiz after quiz to sort of prove that you know stuff before you're allowed on the show, you'd have people coming on the show and not answering anything. It was like that. I don't know if you watch Jeopardy, Charles, but there is
I'm familiar with it. Yeah, I've watched it every so often when I'm over at my parents', because my parents are always watching Jeopardy.
Well, my parents DVR Jeopardy, so it's
right. You told me
they'll always watch it. So a couple years ago, Alex Trebek was still alive, and there was a group of people, and one of the categories was some sort of sports category. I want to say it was a football category.
Okay.
And no one knew any answers to the questions.
Right, because they're all nerds. Yeah.
Some people guessed, but it was like the time would just run out.
Yeah.
And then finally, when they picked the $2,000 or $1,000 question, Alex just said, if any of you get this right, I will die. Because no one was answering the question. And that's what was happening on 21. So they had people coming on and they were not getting the questions right. So no one was rooting for anybody. Nobody wanted to keep watching this show. It was boring. So then they decided, we are going to pick contestants that we want to win and either feed them the answers or pay the people we don't want to win to get the wrong answers.
To throw it, essentially.
To throw it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened in 21. And there was a guy by the name of Herb Stempel, who was on a major winning streak. But then Charles Van Doren of the famous educated Van Doren family came on.
See, I was thinking maybe Van Doren, but that's just me.
No. I want to say he was, I believe he was Mark Van Doren's nephew.
Okay.
No, he was their child. I'm sorry. He was Carl Van Doren's nephew.
Okay.
So that, these are writers. This is a long-standing group of writers, biographers, Pulitzer Prize winners, very educated family.
Okay.
So they, after this sort of, and Herb Stempel was kind of like a Joe the Plumber type of guy.
Okay.
Just a sort of regular guy. But then Van Doren had a little bit more stage presence. He was a little bit more handsome. Blah blah blah. So
a little bit more Lester Guy.
A little bit more Ray Fiennes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit more Ray Fiennes. So So
you're like all over him then, because I know how you feel about Ray Fiennes.
Yeah, I'm a little mad at Ray Fiennes right now, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. You guys having a tiff?
Yeah, we'll get through it.
Okay.
We'll get through it.
All right.
He'll see the light eventually.
Okay, good.
So what happened was they made Herb Stempel throw the game by telling him that he was going to be able to be on other game shows like Tic-Tac-Doe and possibly possibly the Pyramid, something like that.
Okay. Something vaguely Wink Martindale.
Yeah, another Mark Goodson production. So what happened was, out of good faith, he threw it. He threw the game by missing the question of that where the answer was his actual favorite movie. So it kind of hurt him to the core.
Right.
So all this stuff in the movie Quiz Show is true. It was the movie Marty, and he said On the Waterfront, and he knew it was Marty because Marty was his favorite movie. So he's thinking that he's going to be taken care of by the producers in NBC, but then they just kind of leave him,
toss him to the wind.
Yeah, they toss him to the wind, and there were some lawsuits from somebody that had been on the show The Big Surprise. There were For Love or Money, all these shows, there were some people were filing lawsuits, which is what convened a grand jury, which is what got Congress involved.
Yes.
So Congress, there was a congressional hearing and a Senate inquiry about these quiz shows. That was a huge scandal because
America had to trust that these things were legit.
The concept was that these were games of chance and games of wit, and if you were just witty enough, you could win tons of money.
Right.
But that wasn't the case, and there was some...
It was fraud, essentially.
It was fraud, essentially, and there was some accusations of anti-Semitism because it was, like Herb Stempel.
Oh, okay.
You go from Herb Stempel to like this, Aryan Ivy League looking guy.
Got it. Yeah.
And it kind of ruined a lot of people's careers, unfortunately, and ruined a lot of people's reputations, which is bizarre to me because it's a TV show. But
see, nowadays, if that happened, nobody would care at all.
That's the thing, and
they could totally get away with it. Maybe they already are. Nobody would care.
Right, and because the problem is when this happened, the TV was brand new. There were no laws saying
don't do that.
Had to be, on the level type of thing.
Right.
So did they break any laws? So Congress wrote an amendment to the Communications Act, which made sure that you could not fix any sort of skill games on television.
Okay.
You couldn't have, you can't have somebody spinning the wheel on Price is Right to get to the Showcase Showdown and stop it for them just because you like the contestant.
Okay.
And feed somebody the answers. You can't tell somebody to throw something for monetary value. It has to be played honestly.
Right.
So, and then Eisenhower signed in some other amendments to that says that you have to renew your FCC license a certain amount of time, and
just a lot of certification requirements to
there's like
to keep making these. Yeah,
there's like kickback rules that were added to that as well. Okay. So, and like I said, unfortunately,
I love that you looked all this up. I really appreciate that.
That's the thing. I mean, this episode brings up the 1950s trope of fixed game shows.
Yeah.
And that's why this is partially so funny, is because this happened. This stuff actually happened.
I mean, it doesn't get bogged down because obviously it's a sitcom.
Right.
So it doesn't get bogged down in the drama of it.
Right. But the concept of, I felt like the fact that I sort of knew some history about this made this episode a little more enjoyable for me.
Okay.
Like you said, Charles, as soon as we heard $64,000, we're like, I know where they got that number.
Exactly.
And just the idea of, and even Buddy Budwaller says that, games of chance are becoming the new popular thing.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, right.
There's,
it's like audiences seem to like those.
Audiences seem to like games of chance. $64,000.
Right.
So, I felt like this episode is very historically relevant because it has to do with the fixing of game shows.
And the setting, the 1950s setting certainly helps with that.
Yeah, the 1950s setting certainly helps. And it just is another thing to prove that Lester Guy is just no damn good as a person.
Well, after watching, this episode and the previous one, I'm still convinced that Lester Guy is related to Dick Tremaine. I'm just saying, maybe the same.
Yeah, he's like Dick Tremaine's uncle or grandfather or father or something. Yeah, I think he's Dick Tremaine's father.
Right.
So
it certainly feels like they're cut of the same cloth.
They are definitely cut from the same cloth. Good job, Ian Buchanan.
Like Budwaller and
Albert Rosenfeld.
Albert Rosenfeld, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're very similar characters because, as we will find out in next episode, Buddy Budwaller does have a heart.
Oh,
just like
interesting.
So, all right. So let's get to our episode, Charles. We have pretty much the same players,
right?
With the exception of Charles Tyner as Professor Answer.
R. Answer, right?
Professor R. Answer, which is
Professor
hilarious.
Right Answer, yeah.
Professor Right Answer.
See, when they said his first name, I thought it was like WRIGHT, right?
Yeah.
But in the credits it says R Answer.
Exactly.
So
yeah, Professor R Answer.
So I don't know who names their kid Right, RIGHT, but okay, whatever.
So Professor Answer is the Ken Jennings of this show. He's the one that can't possibly lose. He's the ringer.
Yes.
And Charles Tyner, I think I mentioned before, is very well known to kids our age who grew up with Disney movies because he is he's the patriarch of the Gauguin family who owned Pete before he went to live with Nora in Pete's Dragon.
Oh, okay.
So that's Charles Tyner.
See, I picked up on the fact that he was in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That too. Yeah, that too.
And he was also in Cool Hand Luke, the Paul Newman film. And he was also on The Wonder Years.
He was, yes. And I think I said before he was in Motorama, one of the non-David Lynch Jack Nance movies that everybody should see. It's available to on Amazon, and I think everybody should see it.
I've never seen that movie. I need to check that out.
You totally need to see it if you like weird comedies and if you like movies. And I want to say it's written by the same guy who wrote After Hours.
Oh,
with Griffin Dunn.
Really?
Which is one of the greatest movies to come out of the 1980s. So,
all right, I'm going to have to check that out. Another one for the list.
Yep. I highly recommend that. And then we've got Diana Bellamy, who plays Mrs. Thistle.
Ethel Thistle, yeah.
Ethel Thistle, who is Betty's partner on the show, because, of course, Betty is not going to win this show. I mean, Betty's a very dim-balled. She's a burnt fuse. So, Betty has one of her elementary school teachers.
How am I supposed to know that?
So one of her elementary school teachers comes to help her and be her partner. Yeah. And then we have...
Oh, I just want to mention that she's interesting because she was in the movie Outbreak. She was also on Air Force One.
Yep.
And here's an oddball one. She was also in Critters 3.
Critters 3, yeah.
Because Critters 2 was not enough.
You really should watch 1 and 2 before you see 3. Otherwise, you're just going to be lost.
Okay, I was going to say, that completes the trilogy.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Okay.
It does.
All right. Puts a nice bow on it. Yeah.
So then we have the amazing Richard Reel as Dr. Winky.
Yes, Dr. Winky, who obviously goes on to open a diner franchise in L.A.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Winky's Diner. Just saying.
Diner. Yeah, exactly.
Gotta be the same guy.
Richard Reel is famous for being auto repairman Bill Cosby in Bridesmaids.
Nice.
And probably most famous to comedy fans is Tom Simkowski in Office Space.
Yeah, that was Xan had to remind me which one that was, which guy he was playing in that movie, but
I was the engineers so the customers don't have to. I have people skills. Yeah.
I was confusing it with one of the Bobs, but
no, and you're thinking of the Bob that was Paul from Cheers.
Right, exactly. That's who I was thinking of.
That's who you were thinking of. No, yeah, Tom Spikowski was the one who, after he got downsized by the Bobs, was sitting in his garage, his closed garage with the car on, trying to
right. He tried
suicide.
to kill. Yeah, I was gonna say he tried to kill himself in the garage. That's right.
And then his wife comes home, sees him, and then he realizes he loves her, wants to live, goes to drive away, gets hit by a drunk driver, then gets like a 7-figure settlement.
Yeah, because he's all like, bandaged up and and on these all these splints and
he's got like a head halo, to keep his shoulder. Yeah, and he's using his money to pursue his Matt.
Yeah. So
because he figures that the guy who came up with the pet rock came up with $1 million idea, so he has $1 million idea, which is to jump to conclusions, Matt. So that's what he creates.
There you go.
So that's Dr. Winky, who's actually, don't tell anyone, is a veterinarian.
Yeah. Oh wait, no.
So
no, a vegetarian.
Oh, he's a vegetarian. Yes. Good job, Ruth.
Yes.
So
Ruth,
he's
Ruth-splaining again.
Yes, Ruth-splaining again. Exactly.
I also want to mention that
because
I also want to mention Richard Reel. He was Ed Rooney on the Ferris Bueller TV show.
Was he really?
Yes, he was.
I did not remember that.
Very short-lived one with Charlie Booker, I believe, as Ferris Bueller.
And Jennifer Aniston.
There's a trivia question for you. Yeah.
Yeah, Jennifer Aniston is Jeannie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shauna, Jeannie.
Ooh, Shauna, Jeannie.
And he was also in multiple Star Trek shows. He was on Next Gen. He was on Voyager and Enterprise.
Yeah, he's been everywhere. So
he's one of those character actors you recognize him, oh yeah, that guy, one of those.
And even in this, you recognize his voice because he has this gigantic beard, so he doesn't really look like himself.
Yeah, but yeah, I wanted to mention that he's the non-creepy Ed Rooney.
Oh, okay, yeah, the non-creepy Ed Rooney. That's a good one to have.
Yeah.
So the reason we have a veterinarian is because Mr. McGonagall is sick, and he's seeing spots. Right. Which will come into play later.
Yes, it's a very key word, as it turns out.
A very key word. Foreshadowing.
Right.
So he needs something to help him out. So they call Dr. Winky, who has all kinds of homemade potions for
Dr.
animals of all
Dr.
shapes and
Vinky,
sizes, apparently.
yes.
Dr. Winky, just get them horror. So
you do that so well.
Of course, because it's the Lester Guy show, we have all kinds of problems where, again, the show is supposed to be winner take all, but because they listened to Mr. Gochktch tell him the name of the TV show, it sounds like Wiener took us all.
Right.
So, and they actually write that out
on one of the set pieces.
The set actually says, Wiener took us all. Yeah.
And then McGonagall's like, no, you got to take that back downstairs. And so so it was Shorty and the other stagehand. They go to take that, and the other stagehand had complained about it being like it took so much time to put the lettering on with all this glue. So there's a physical gag of where the other stagehand grabs Shorty's hand to show that teamwork, and then gets stuck.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're stuck together, and they're trying to and then somebody's head goes through it. I mean, it's just total Three Stooges.
Right, pretty much.
So
with lots of cartoon sound effects.
Lots of cartoon sound effects because of Blinky Watts.
Right.
The great Tracey Walter, who is not blind. He suffers from Bozeman's simplex.
Yes, he does.
And we find out in this episode that Blinky is very perceptive and a wonderful judge of character.
Mm-hmm. Blinky has a little bit more on the ball than you think he does.
Blinky has a little bit more on the ball, exactly. Don't go to Sam. Go to Blinky.
Go to Blinky.
Yeah, go to Blinky and his team.
He's got a little bit more going on.
Because as we said, Lester Guy explains the plot of this is not really a quiz show. This is Professor Victor is donating his winnings to a charity, which is me. It has no other members. I'm just going to give the money right back to the network. It's going to be fine.
It's a win-win. Everybody wins.
It's a win-win situation. Exactly.
We get rid of Betty. It's all good.
Right. We're going to make Betty look like an idiot.
Right.
And everything's going to be fine. So what happens is we start playing the game. And so far, everything's kind of going as planned until Blinky tells us that certain sounds have certain meanings for certain people.
Well, it kind of goes okay first, but then Mrs. Thistle turns out to be
that's right.
more of an expert because she appears to be smarter than Professor Answer.
Yes, she's right on there with Professor Answer, but also Professor Answer is having a hard time answering the questions because of this loud noise that Blinky figures out. And if Professor Answer hears this noise, he gets crippled. He starts screaming and talking about his terrible childhood.
Yeah, he goes like this, like, I remember when I was on the moors in Leeds or something, and I forget what it was.
Yeah. Because when you get an answer wrong on Wiener Took Us All, there's like this screaming noise. That's your wrong. Yeah, the screechy wrong answer is, and it does not sit well with Professor Answer. So our first round, before we go to our commercial break, Mrs. Thistle's doing really well. She's doing extremely well, and that's going to cause a problem. But Mrs. Thistle
and we should also add that Lester is getting really frustrated with Professor Answer by this point.
Yeah, Lester is very frustrated with Professor Answer. He's not particularly very nice to him, and because he can see his plan just going right down the toilet.
Right, he's like, I'm so screwed. Yes.
So during our first commercial break, we see Mrs. Thistle talking to, and I want to call her Mrs. Frizzle, like from the.
No, it's like Thistle, like the flower. Yeah. It
is, but I just want to call her Miss Frizzle because it's Magic School Bus.
So, but she talks with Betty, and first Mrs. Thistle's all like, well, it's a shame that like all my people, my friends and whatnot at home can't see me because this is a rehearsal. And Betty's like, no, this is not a rehearsal. See that camera there? See that little blinky light on top? And Mrs. Thistle realizes, like there's millions of people watching, maybe even hundreds of thousands.
Millions of and then Mrs. Thistle goes crazy with stage fright,
right?
And just is sort of walking in a daze around this studio just going, millions of people, millions of people. She's just freaked out. So she's gone.
Yeah.
So they're thinking,
Ray's gone bye-bye.
Oh, great.
Egon, what do you got left? What do you have left?
I'm petrified beyond the capacity for rational thought. So Mrs. Thistle's gone, which means Betty's playing by herself, and Lester Guy is now thinking, oh, fantastic.
Yes.
This is great. But
Budwaller's in the control booth going like, get Lester back on the show now, because he went, first he got, during that commercial break, he got really mad and went off to do the commercial for the Amberjacks automatic pipe connector.
Married to the other.
I love that you know that, by the way.
Amberjack splitter? Yeah. So he gets back on the show, of course, leaving the Amberjack splitter to just keep cutting pipe all night long.
Well, in the fact, yeah, exactly. Because one of the things that I loved, I thought was really funny, was he does this whole big. He talks about when they're doing the rehearsal for the commercial, and he's all like, having trouble laying pipe.
Yeah.
With the Amberjack automatic pipe connector, your pesky home plumbing problems can be as simple as, why, the birds and the bees.
And the bees. Yeah.
So, but I just love that, like, you're having trouble laying pipe gag.
Uh-huh. So you can tell that his sponsors are not exactly like Kraft or Kellogg's cereal or any sort of brand.
No, and he talks about Mr. and Mrs. Pipe, as it were, together in blissful matrimony.
Matrimony, yes. Have one pipe, married to the other.
I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, that's a fantastic commercial. And then the little dancing girls in the background.
Right.
Amberjack's better. So he leaves the pipe just being chopped up, and you get the little 2-inch rings of pipe that you can use for crafts or napkin holders or whatever you want.
Because like one part of the pipe is connected to like this big water tower that holds 250,000 gallons. That's on the rooftop. It even has a sign that says 250,000 gallons of water, which I love.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then the other is supposed to go into this this empty tank on the other end of the pipe, but because of Lester being in such a rush to get back, that other side, the one that has the empty tank isn't connected properly to the automatic pipe connector. So therefore, the machine, the connector, just starts running wild and then starts spitting out all these chunks of sheared metal.
Yeah, these little rings of sheared metal.
Flying hockey pucks of sheared metal.
Right.
One of them hits like a network guy and knocks him over. Which is pretty funny.
So we got that going on.
So
Lester's back, and they're going to have a show, and they think it's just going to be Professor Answer against Betty, which is a surefire win.
Yeah.
But a drugged up McGonagall, who is drunk on Professor Winky's animal potions.
Right. Remember, you're only supposed to take one drop, because otherwise it'd be very dangerous.
Very dangerous. And he takes the whole bottle practically. So he's
because Scraps the dog jumps up on him because Scraps is all over wants this potion.
He wants the potion because he's a veterinarian.
Yeah, exactly. So because of Scraps jumping up to get the potion, knocks the bottle, of course, into McGonagall's mouth. Just
right down his gullet.
Right.
So we've got McGonagall wandering around. He's got the bottle in one hand and he's just sort of wandering around. And starts answering questions.
Go get Mrs. Thistle's purse.
Yeah.
So he goes to get her purse, and because he gives him dog symptoms, a dog personality. He goes over and picks up the purse with his mouth.
With his mouth, yes.
Right.
So he's acting like a dog, but he's answering questions.
He howls.
What is the only state in the Union that has one syllable? Maine.
Right.
And now this is interesting to me, Charles, because the mnemonic device to remember the planets in the solar system is My Very Elegant Mother Just Served Us 9 pickles.
Yes.
When I was a kid, it was 9 pizzas. My Very Elegant Mother Just Served us 9 pizzas.
Okay, so well, that sounds better, right?
Yes. I think 9 pizzas would make you more popular than 9 pickles, but
I think so too. Yeah. But we don't have to worry about the pizzas
Mercury,
now because then
B
Pluto
Venus,
got declared
B
not a
Earth,
planet.
M again Mars. I mean, and then he goes through all the
Right.
and P for Pluto, pickles. And
then Lester's just like,
so
that's right. Correct.
That's right. So he's just Lester's in tears.
Yeah.
And Professor Answer is about ready to just pass out from PTSD from his horrible childhood, from the wrong answer sound, just bringing up every bad memory he's ever had. And then we get to our final question.
Yeah, Betty reminds Lester
Charles,
about the mystery question.
The mystery question, yeah.
What about the mystery question?
What about the mystery question?
So at this point, water from the connector dangles which is dangling over the studio by now, sprays water all over McGonagall, which snaps him out of his stupor.
Right.
And
he's trying to figure out what he's doing there.
He's like, "Where's Mrs. Thistle?" And then Betty's like, "Well, you're Mrs. Thistle."
You're Mrs. Thistle.
Right.
Yeah.
So Lester reads the mystery question, and the category is the Bard of Avon.
Now, before you bring that up, I would just like to remind you that McGonagall, because of this potion, is seeing spots.
Right. Yes, that's a very good point to bring up. Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead. Go ahead, Charles.
So now that the effects of the medication have been washed away by this water, and meanwhile you've also got Zablotnik's hotline going, ringing off the hook.
Yeah, Zablotnik's hotline is going to start spewing fire.
And then Budwaller just keeps staring at it. He's afraid to answer it because he knows what happened last time we talked with a fire coming out. So the question is, in what is known as the Scottish play? Because there's a certain play that you're not supposed to say the name of, meaning Macbeth.
No, it's bad. Right, it's bad. If you're an actor, you should never say the title of that particular play.
So what is known as the Scottish play, Act 5, Scene 1, contains what famous outburst of guilt and remorse?
Okay, so what happens at this point?
Yes.
Is
Snaps jumps up on the table. Yeah.
Yeah. Scraps the dog, jumps up on the table.
Starts licking at McGonagall's shirt.
Right, because he wants the potion.
Mm-hmm.
So Betty takes the dog and tries to push it away and goes, out!
Right.
And McGonagall starts waving his hand in front of his eyes and says, damn spot!
Right.
And then she pushes the dog somewhere and goes, out!
Again, yeah.
Again, which of course sounds like out damn spot, out, which is the famous line.
Right.
From Macbeth.
So Lester looks at the card and he's just completely stunned by this point.
He's like, that's right. He's like ready to cry.
So they win the $64,000.
They win the $64,000. Yeah. So I love the choreography of this episode.
Yeah.
And the build-up of everything. Because at the beginning you see McGonagall is sick with fever.
Yeah.
And he's seeing spots. And you're like, what the hell is this all about?
Right. Where's this going to lead? Yeah.
They've been setting up this.
They set up this one gag. Yeah.
For this one gag. And they've been setting the spots up. They're setting the spots up, and then they set up the dog trying to get at McGonagall this whole time. So
they must have written this episode backwards because to get to this point.
They had to have written this episode backwards. So they've got McGonagall screaming, damn spots, because he's been saying damn spots, and you know, I'm seeing spot. I mean, he's been bitching about them all night long.
Throughout the whole episode, yeah.
Throughout the entire episode, and then just the fact that Betty says "out" to the dog instead of like "get down" or "no, or whatever else you might say to a dog.
Like, come on, doggy,
let's
go.
Out,
yeah.
Out, and you're like, oh my god, it's so absurdly brilliant.
Right.
How this episode is choreographed.
It just ties it all like right together.
It ties it up together so perfectly. It's like one of those stupid dad jokes that takes forever, and at the very end of it is like
the payoff.
A ridiculous pun.
Yeah.
Like a really stupid pun, and you're like, oh, Dad.
You made me wait for all that. Yeah.
It's just so brilliantly choreographed with the dog and McGonagall spinning around with the spots and Betty trying to push the dog out.
This whole big comedy of errors. Yeah, exactly.
It's so great. But the great thing about this episode is, of course, we learn a little bit more about Blinky's intuition about people.
Mm-hmm.
because when we see him press the button for the wrong answer noise,
right,
we see that Professor Answer gets very agitated by it. And Blinky, even through all of the other stuff all of the extraneous stuff that he's seeing, Blinky figures that out, and he just starts making that noise.
Right.
Because he knows it'll get Miss Professor Answer to screw up, and Blinky doesn't like Lester Guy.
No, he doesn't. He was
So
intentionally, he was actually being aware of what was going on. And so,
yeah, he knows that the guy is creating a fixed game show.
And like he and Mickey get into this discussion, like, talking about, well, there's all these sounds in the universe. And Mickey says something like there's infinitesimal sounds.
Infinitesimal sounds in the universe, yeah.
And then he says, like, well, one of those sounds, there are certain sounds which affect certain people in bad ways.
Yeah.
They can't stand it. And that's so he does that intentionally.
He figures it out, yeah. And he beats Lester. He helps beat Lester at his own game.
Right. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, this one is one of those episodes where, like, by the end of it, you're like, this is so absurdly wonderful.
Right.
So yes, in this episode we have the out damn spot joke that takes 30 minutes to set up.
But at least it pays off.
Yes. And we have we pay some homage to the concept of the fixed game show in the 1950s.
It was pretty good.
Which I still think it's crazy that we have a law for that now. That's it's illegal to fix a game show, and you just want to say, who cares? I mean,
well, I'm sure the people that go on there intending to, like, hoping to win this money care.
I guess, but you would think that they would pay them some sort of a keep your damn mouth shut fee.
Oh, yeah.
So there's probably something like that they don't have, that they're paid off to not say, like, oh yeah, the $64,000 question, that's rigged. Nobody knows that much about opera.
Well, it's kind of nice to know that actually, is regulated in a way.
In a way, but at the same time,
I don't know if anybody pays attention to it now. They probably could get away with it, I'm guessing, and nobody would care.
Well, the thing is, what game shows are on these days?
Right. I mean, the same ones that have always been on: Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and Price is Right.
And that's like it. But Jeopardy is the only quiz show that has lasted out of the 1950s. You don't have 21. You don't have $64,000 question. You don't have tic-tac-toe anymore. You don't have any of that stuff.
No.
Because game shows kind of fell out of popularity in the 90s, I think.
Yeah. As viewing options increased because of home video and cable television channels being added, then that stuff fell by the wayside.
Yeah, I didn't have to watch Chuck Woolery anymore. I only was watching Chuck Woolery because I had to, right?
Yeah. I think we're all better off not watching Chuck Woolery if you've.
I think we totally.
If you've followed him after his game show era.
Yeah.
At all.
Exactly.
What he's been up to, what he's been saying, we're all better off.
Yeah, or Bob Eubanks and everybody, all of those people. We don't have, we don't have game shows. We have Jeopardy, and I hope it lasts after Alex Trebek. But Alex Trebek is probably the most beloved game show host in the history of game show hosts.
I mean, I know right now they're looking for replacement hosts. They're trying out various hosts. But
my vote is.
But the question is, who's going to have that staying power? I don't know.
LeVar Burton.
LeVar Burton would be a great choice. I agree.
LeVar Burton is my choice. I've heard that there were fans that wanted that, and I was like, I am so behind this.
I'm behind that too. I support it.
I say LeVar Burton, but don't take my word for it. Yeah, see, I kind of don't remember life without LeVar Burton. It was like, I saw the first episode of Reading Rainbow when I was 7 years old.
Right.
So I've been trusting LeVar Burton with my education for almost 40 years now.
I remember watching. I was obviously first introduced watching Roots because
Yeah, I was too young for Roots when it first aired.
I get that. I get
Yeah.
that because I know you're younger
Yeah.
than me. So you
Right.
but that came out at a time where like it was on television, and then the elementary school where I was at showed it
Okay.
in class.
Wow, elementary school. Damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, well, so that was pretty impressive, right? So yeah, we got to watch that.
Because we watched it in junior high.
Right.
We watched it in 7th grade. We watched the whole thing.
Then of course, Star Trek: The Next Generation, where he's Geordi LaForge. So
that was the thing. By the time I saw it, we had all grown up with Reading Rainbow, and we'd all seen Star Trek.
right.
So for us, he was LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow.
Got it.
And then, so Geordi LaForge was LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow for us.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That
So
makes
that's
sense.
that's how it worked out. So I would like to see LeVar Burton, but yeah, we don't really have game shows anywhere. But the thing for me is, especially now after having dealt with so much stupid reality TV that is obviously scripted,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I have absolutely no.
Why don't they regulate that? If they're going to regulate something, regulate that.
Well, the Kardashians are finally going off the air, so we're making progress.
Exactly. Finally. All it took was Kim and Kanye breaking up.
I will say that lasted about
longer than I thought.
Yeah, a lot longer than I thought. I mean,
I gave it like 2 years tops.
I gave it like 2 months. Like I was not expecting.
You were not optimistic at all.
I was not expecting this one to last at all, but it lasted a lot. Weren't they married like 10, 11 years, something like
that? I don't know. I don't care enough about them.
I don't care. That's to quote Carl from Aqua Teens. No, yes. The real answer is I don't give a damn.
And that is the right answer.
That is the right answer.
That is to me. You are correct. Yes.
Correct. Yeah, that is good job, Professor Answer. So for me, I always thought of it as this is the network's money. It's not like it's taxpayer money.
Yeah. That
goes into this. You know, either it's a scripted show or it's a game show that looks like, I mean, I guess for me growing up with like, I don't know if you remember those TV shows, they were like dramatized court shows.
You mean like the People's Court?
No, not like the People's Court. I mean like The Judge. Like where it looked like the People's Court, but it was actually more like a soap opera, like it was like soap opera court.
Okay.
Where it was fiction. It took place in a courtroom and it looked like it was an actual
that one I missed. I missed out on
it. Looked like an actual courtroom show, but
yeah.
it was fictionalized and it was horrible. I mean, it was really, really terrible. It was such a good, even when I was like 12, it was like, I knew it was a guilty pleasure. That show was hilarious. So, but, you know, even stuff like that, where it's like, or things like Judge Judy, where she says, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That is all next case, please.
Right.
That money does not come from the defendant. That money comes from the Judge Judy program.
The show.
That comes out of their budget.
Right.
So it's a judgment per se, but it's not like...
It's not a legally binding judgment.
Like if I ran into your car and you sued me for your $1,000 deductible or something like that, right. And you won, it's not like I pay you $1,000.
Yeah.
It's Judge Judy pays you $1,000 because she finds that I'm at fault, blah, 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 blah. So Charles, if that ever happens...
It's essentially being settled out of court, is what it is.
It's essentially being settled out of court by a mediator. Yeah.
Right.
Charles, if that ever happens, if one of us ever runs into the other one's car...
Well, let's not do that, but okay.
Let's not do it, but if it happens,
yes.
Let's do the Judge Judy show, because then we get flown to California.
Oh, okay.
She pays for everything.
All
let's
right.
just take it care of it that way.
Okay.
So
okay, well,
even things like that where it's not fully
right.
Even the Judge Judy show is filmed in Los Angeles, but they show you pictures of New York when you're watching it.
Yeah. That's funny.
So little of it's real. And I think for me, growing up with that kind of crap, the idea that the American public was so pissed off that Charles Van Doren, was fed answers
Yeah.
to a game show that they had to involve Congress.
Right.
And I was, in the 1950s, Congress was already on my shit list because of HUAC, and because of the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So
we were already
the whole seduction of the innocent.
Persona non grata, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you remember the 1950s? This was a very paranoid time period. If you were,
we had the Red Scare, we had the what was it, the 10-cent menace?
Yeah, so that everybody was worried about the fifth columnists. They were worried about communists that infiltrating. That there was all this paranoia.
Delinquency.
Yeah, and so you had guys like Joseph McCarthy, who were calling basically he's a senator. He was a senator back then, and he was one of these guys that was just crusading supposedly for morality for the nation.
And it was essentially a witch hunt, and
pretty much,
as we know, we know from history and from reading The Crucible that the witch hunts were basically, I don't like that bitch, she's a witch, kill her.
Right.
And that's what this was, is that people were being
persecuted.
And it was Jews, it was women, it was everything that you couldn't arrest somebody for.
Right.
They called them communists and then arrested them.
Right.
Which, you're allowed to be a communist. That's the thing.
Well,
you're not allowed to plot to overthrow the government, but if you just want to say, hey, I'm a communist, you're totally allowed to do that.
Well, essentially it was like being called a Muslim back then.
Right. Which, again, you are allowed to be.
Exactly. But because of the fear and the paranoia of the time period, this was the worst thing to be called back then.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be a damn commie back then.
I actually got in an argument with a teacher in college one time who, and far be it from me to second guess somebody else's experiences.
Right.
Not being Jewish, I probably shouldn't have been so judgmental about her.
Okay.
But she talked about how she had grandparents who were communists.
Uh-huh.
And she said that she sort of felt like she understood them because she thought that being a communist in the 50s was a lot like being a Jew in the 90s.
Okay.
And I was like,
no.
Really?
No. Not really.
I was like, you really think being a Jew right now is like being a communist in the, like, are you being arrested in the middle of the night for being Jewish?
That's kind of like Gina Carano comparing, conservatives being oppressed, comparing that to the Holocaust, essentially.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of a false equivalency a little bit.
Are you being systematically exterminated, or are you
being burned in ovens and we're not aware of this?
Are you just a jerk that nobody wants to talk to anymore?
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not Jewish. Far be it from me to judge the Jewish experience, but I'm pretty sure being a Jewish communist in 1955 was worse.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was harder, but
I mean,
whatever.
Worst comes to worst, we can always bring in our Jewish consultant, DJ Nick, to verify this.
Yes, our Jewish consultant,
our authority on all things Judaic.
I was a young upstart of a kid, and I just was like, please do not. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that anti-Semitism does not exist, because it does.
Of course,
I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that there's not anti-Jewish sentiment, because there is. But it's a heck of a lot harder to arrest somebody for simply being Jewish in 1997 than it was to arrest somebody for being communist in 1955.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a little.
Seems a little oblivious. Yes.
I probably should have let that go. I probably shouldn't have brought it up. But I did in a little bit of an argument with her, and she did at the end of it say, I was probably right. Her grandparents probably fought a harder fight. But being a communist and being called a communist,
yes, just a simple accusation
could have you arrested.
Yeah, because there was this happened all over, like especially in Hollywood, where you had actors being accused of being communists that would get them blacklisted.
Right.
And blackballed from the industry.
Blacklisted, and they never worked again.
Right.
People like James Garfield, who were blacklisted and died at the age of 39 from the stress of it all.
Right.
Just for being called communist.
Yeah, you didn't have to have any proof. All you needed was the accusation.
All you needed was
that
the
was
accusation.
enough.
And again,
to destroy your career.
Again, being a communist is perfectly legal.
Right.
It's a perfectly legal thing to be. You can't conspire to overthrow the government, but you are allowed to be a communist. The same way, I don't care how many anti-Semites there are out there. Screw you guys. Being Jewish is perfectly legal. You're allowed to live. Yeah. Screw you guys. I'm going home. You are allowed to live in this country and be Jewish.
Right.
You are allowed to live in this country and be Muslim. You are allowed to live in this country and be Hindu. I don't care what the bigots say. You're allowed to do it, which is why Joe McCarthy is a piece of shit human being.
Yeah. So needless to say, the 1950s were not all Leave It to Beaver, Dick Van Dyke show.
No, they were not. They were not. And I think that was a big part of it too. I think a lot of people wanted the hope that maybe if I do everything that I'm supposed to do, study hard and be smart, even I can win $64,000.
Right.
$64,000 in like 1955 is like $150,000 now.
Yeah, it was a serious amount of money back then.
It was a seriously large amount of money. So I think they wanted that hope, and I think everybody just got outraged about it. And it was just another instance, in my opinion, of Congress wasting its time in the 1950s. Because, talk about the Red Scare all you want, yeah, God forbid normal citizens get the same health care that people who work for the government get.
Right. So, what a wacky idea.
What a wacky idea. Yeah. Like I said, I always thought it was weird.
That's like equal pay for women. Go figure.
Can you imagine what sort of heresy?
Equal pay for doing the same amount of work, same kind of work.
I know.
Crazy.
Right?
Craziness.
Can you imagine what these upstarts, how dare they?
Maniacs.
But yeah, for me, it was like, why is Congress wasting their time on friggin' game shows? They're wasting their time on actors who might possibly be communists.
Yeah.
And now they're wasting their time on game shows.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we also got the whole seduction of the innocent with Dr. Frederick Wortham and that whole business. So they were wasting their time with that too, back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So much so that they had to create the Comics Code Authority.
God bless you, William B. Gaines.
Which neutered so many comic book stories back then.
Yeah. God bless you, William Gaines.
Right. From EC Comics.
Because EC Comics, that is why Tales from the Crypt,
right,
Creepy, and Mad Magazine were magazines. They were not comic books.
Exactly.
And that's how he got around that. He was a genius. And, we had... What did I just see? Al Jaffe's like 100 years old this year.
Is he?
Yeah.
I know Sergio's getting up there. Sergio Aragones.
Yeah, Sergio, but I want to say Al Jaffe's like 99 or something, or 100 or something like that. I just saw something on him, and I was like, oh my God, I love
I'm going to be destroyed when Sergio goes, because I'm a huge Sergio fan.
Don't even start.
That's what I'm saying. See, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I will be seriously upset when that happens.
Yeah, Al Jaffe just turned 100.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, March 13th. Al Jaffe's 100 years old.
Congrats, Al Jaffe. Salute.
Seriously. I got to think of a snappy answer to a stupid question.
Or maybe a fold-in to on top of it.
Yes.
The Mad Fold-ins were the best.
The greatest thing. Yeah, the Mad Fold-in.
The only reason to ruin your mint copy of Mad Magazine.
The only reason to ruin it, yeah. And even then, I wouldn't do it. I would kind of fold it.
Oh, So you would kind of
use
do
a ruler.
so you would just fold it just enough to figure out what it was trying to do.
Right. I would take a ruler and put it along the lines and then write down the words and see what it was. And then I kind of fold it so it looked like a squat S. And then sort of looked at it. I'm like, okay, I get what the picture is now. And then I would just put it back as far as that. Not like I didn't read my Mad magazines so much that the covers fell off of them.
Right, exactly.
Which I did.
It kind of defeated the purpose. Yeah, I was the same way with that, especially when the Star Wars issue came out. I read that like hundreds of times. Loved it.
Oh, seriously. That or the Return of the Jedi that was done by the late great Mort Drucker.
Yes.
Yeah, those were fabulous. But yeah, that's the thing. Mad Magazine, fantastic artists, fantastic funny stories that could be what they were because it was a magazine, because
right.
Bill Gaines figured it out. So yeah, the Comics Code was a big thing. It was a big deal because, God forbid our kids read about, I don't know, I still feel like that was a little bit fueled by anti-Semitism as well.
I'm sure that was part of it, but
yeah.
But also it was just like, but it was all, under the guise of, we must protect the children's.
Oh, please, somebody think of the children. Yeah. Who is the most famous superhero of all time, Charles?
Well, that would be Superman, of course.
By two Jewish guys.
Exactly. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster from
Cleveland, Ohio.
Glenville, Ohio. Thank you very much. Right outside of Cleveland. Ohio bros represent.
Yeah, Superman is from Ohio, so suck on that.
That's right.
So, yeah, you can go to the Schuster house.
Metropolis rocks. I'm just saying.
Metropolis is pretty great. I mean, Metropolis, Illinois is pretty great, but Superman's from Ohio.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, Metropolis is Cleveland. That's where that came from.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I said, there is a comic books industry because of two Jewish guys. So I do feel like a lot of that was fueled by anti-Semitism as well.
Sure, like I said, I'm sure that's part of it. Definitely.
Yeah. And, there's it's all just ridiculous. I'm going off on my anti-Semitic rant again that I did for my anti-Semitic rant.
I was going to say
that I did on Gold.
You're not anti-Jewish, you're anti-Jewish.
I'm anti-Semitic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Let's clarify
we talked
that.
about this. We talked about this a lot.
We don't need, as much as we want letters, we don't need those kind of letters. I'm just saying.
We don't need those kind of letters. Yeah, no, that's the thing. We talked about this on Gold Standard when we did Gentleman's Agreement, which just made me want to throw something at the TV when I watched it. Like, are you freaking kidding me with this crap? What the hell is wrong with you people? Was
it another black and white movie? Because I'm sure Rachel was wanting to do the same.
Oh, Rachel was okay with this one. She liked the message.
Okay.
That anti-Semitism is friggin' ridiculous.
Well, that's a good message.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I have a real hard time, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Charles, about all of the discussions we're having about gender identity.
Right.
And how people are so against the concept of gender fluidity or gender being a cultural construct rather than a physiological thing.
People choosing pronouns, that kind of thing.
People choosing what gender they are rather than looking in their pants and going, oh, okay, I've got flaps instead of a dangly thing, so therefore I'm a girl.
Right.
So this whole concept where everybody is so interested in what everybody else is. It's like, do I care? Like, how does this affect my life in the slightest? It's the idea that
it's people that have no business being involved in that thing.
Who care? Yeah, that's the thing.
It's like, most people who have no problem with this have other things going on in their lives. They have other priorities. It's not a concern.
They just know it's none of their concern. That's the thing. Like,
or they respect the others' right to be who they want to be.
Exactly. Why would I spend my day thinking about why someone should or should not be a certain gender or religion or sexuality or ideology or what? Right. Just stop caring so much about other people. In a bad way.
Yeah.
Care about them in a good way. Care about them as people, but stop being so interested in what they are.
Why are you fixating on this instead of doing other things to, I don't know, help people and help them prosper and succeed in life?
It's like, I hope the concept of watching the newscaster and wondering what kind of name that is or what their race is, it dies with our parents.
Well, there's always that hope, as with every passing generation, that maybe, there's been to some extent progress in that regard, because obviously,
Gen Z,
obviously attitudes today aren't like they were, say, 30 years ago.
Exactly, but it's.
So there is hope. There is hope there. You don't see it because you go through the day to day, and you see like all the stupidity on the news or what have you, and you get frustrated. But in the long term, there's active change going on.
I hope so. I just don't need to have a conversation about whether or not the new meteorologist is Mexican or Dominican. I don't need to have that conversation with anybody. Who cares? What's the weather going to be like tomorrow?
Pretty much. Very succinct.
Why is that a thing? It just doesn't make
Does he get the weather right? That's all I care about.
Thank you. Exactly. So, but yeah, Congress.
Because you be that wrong 50% of the time, it sure beats working.
Beats working. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Congress had other stuff to do, I think, instead of decide whether or not game shows were. They had better things to do than to tell networks what they can do and could not do with.
Well, I'm sure a lot of that was also political grandstanding.
I'm sure a lot of it was political grandstanding because it all centered around Charles Van Doren, who was from a very well-to-do family.
Right.
And it was all about having a scapegoat and having a fall guy, and it was all just ridiculous.
Yeah.
If anybody was going to go down for this, it should have been Mark Goodson.
See, we were talking about Mad Magazine. You wonder where we were going. We brought it back to the quiz shows. We got there.
We were talking about people who were geniuses enough to get around the problem. And William Gaines was a genius to get around the problem. He had his problems, but to say, you know what, screw this. We're going to charge more. We're going to spend more, but we're going to call this a magazine and we're going to do whatever the hell we want.
Right.
Good for him. Or like the late, great Larry Flint. Say what you want to about him.
Right.
But if you like your First Amendment rights, you've got Larry Flint to thank.
There you go.
Also, Ohio. So far we have Superman and Hustler. What else we got?
There you go. Well, hey, we got Michael Stanley, but he passed recently, sadly.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. We have Bart Simpson. Bart Simpson's from Ohio.
There you go.
Yeah, Nancy Cartwright's from Dayton.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nancy Cartwright's from Dayton.
All right. So anything else about this episode that we did not cover?
No, I think we did our history lesson and we talked about how, bigotry is terrible. So good for us.
Yeah. There was one Budwaller line that I really liked that I want to mention, where he remarks, watching all the failing of Professor Answer, and he says, "Let's get down on our hands and knees and look for Professor Answer's IQ."
Yeah.
And then McGonagall starts to do that. And he's like, "Get up, you idiot!"
Yeah, get up, you idiot!
Get up, you idiot!
I will say that the way Lester
but that was such an Albert line.
Such an Albert line. It's so much.
That's why I wanted to bring it up.
The way Lester Guy says when Professor Answer is like, "I was never allowed to be a child," and Lester Guy goes, "Who cares?" He just says it real fast like that.
I love that.
I have been saying "who cares" like that for the last 30 years because of it. That's probably my
That's where you get it from.
That's my most quoted thing from this series is "who cares."
That's funny.
Yeah, I always loved that.
I'm gonna keep that in mind now.
And
that was good.
And I want to say that I saw this episode before I actually read Macbeth.
Okay.
Because I think I probably read Macbeth and saw this episode in the same year when I was 16.
Interesting.
So
you were familiar with the line.
Familiar with the line, but now when I read it, I think of it like the song, the springtime, the only pretty ringtime birds sing, hey ding, from, oh God. Ah!
It's easy for you to say.
My brain is like oatmeal.
Welcome to my world. Now you know what I go through all the time.
I cannot think of anything right now.
Is the worst, isn't it?
Ah!
So,
this is driving me crazy.
All right. So, well,
As You Like It. Thank you. My
oh,
God.
okay.
All I could hear in my head was that we have our exits and their entrances, that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's all I could hear in my head, but I could not get the title of the play.
Okay, see, I'm not as familiar with that one.
Okay, As You Like It. All the World's a Stage.
Yes.
Is from As You Like It.
Right.
And there's also like a song in there. It was a lover in his last with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no, that o'er the green cornfield did pass in springtime, the only pretty ring time, when birds sing hey ding, a ding ding, sweet lovers love the spring.
Right.
Whenever I read that or whenever I see As You Like It performed, when that comes up, it sounds wrong to me because I can hear it the way Willy Wonka sings it. And now whenever I hear Out Damn Spot Out, I think of this episode.
That's funny.
I think of the delivery from this episode rather than the delivery from any other version
It's
of
corrupted.
Macbeth.
It's corrupted your perception of Shakespeare.
It has corrupted my perception of Macbeth. Yes. Yes, it has. God, why could I not think of the name of that play? My God, my brain has gone to mush.
That's all right. It happens. It's COVID brain. That's all I can say.
I don't know what is going on.
COVID brain is a thing, people.
When you can think of the lover poem and All the World's a Stage, but you can't think of As You Like It, I think it's time to go to bed.
Angels and ministers of grace defend us. Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 4.
Good night, sweet prince. May a flight of angels sing thee to thy rest.
All right, so what's your rating for this episode?
Oh, what is the rating for this one? This is 8 out of 10 stagehands glued together.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little less than you. I gave it 7 out of 10 pieces of sheared metal flying through the air.
Nice. Yeah.
Because I love that little intro that when Lester's doing the commercial rehearsal,
mm-hmm.
and he's like, you get this nice souvenir pieces of sheared metal that you can use from anything from paperweights to an ashtray.
Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't say napkin holders, because I feel like napkin holders are the perfect thing.
They do kind of look like that, don't they?
They look like napkin holders
because they're curved.
They're just little little circles of metal.
Or you could do, maybe if you could figure out a way to balance it, it would look almost like you could hold business cards in or something like that.
Oh, yeah, there's got to be
for
something.
all the two of you that still use business cards in 2021. Just saying, it's kind of an outdated industry.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so don't have any feedback, sadly, once again. But, we are doing these on-the-air episodes, so I can't imagine, that there's a huge demand. Hopefully there is.
We can't be the only two people that watch these shows.
We're getting downloads off of these, so people are listening, so I'm definitely appreciative of that. So thank you guys for at least listening to us, even if you're not contributing.
Yes, thank you for listening, and thank you for downloading.
That's the key, to keep listening.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, like I said, we can't be the only two people who saw these episodes.
No, but maybe there's just people that want to learn about them because they never got to see them. Like all the Gen Zs out there. Just saying.
All the Gen Zs who are missing out on 1950s references.
Right.
Because there's nothing Gen
Z likes more. From an obscure 1992 sitcom that got canceled after 3 episodes.
Yeah, nothing Gen Z likes more than 70-year-old comedy references.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So you don't give them enough credit, but they do, obviously. All right.
I know. They want to know things.
All right. So if you want to get a hold of us, though, we definitely hope you do. Write to us at ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. It's ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. You find us on Twitter at GhostwoodCast on Twitter or Ghostwood the Twin Peaks Podcast on Facebook. And that Facebook page and the Twitter account also now have links to our spiffy new Southgate Media page on the Southgate Media Group website. So
nice.
I'm sure Rob Southgate would definitely appreciate us plugging that because he went through all the hard work of setting that thing up.
Exactly.
So everybody check that out. And then, Xan, where can they reach you in the meantime?
Instagram and Twitter is Udinax19 and Facebook as Xan Sprouse.
Right.
Or if you want to hear me talk about Oscar-winning movies with our good friends DJ Nick and Rachel Friend,
and you do, trust me,
Standard, the Oscars podcast. And if you want to hear me and Charles go on tangents while we're drunk talking about our favorite movies, you can listen to us on Drunk Cinema.
There you go. All right. And as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Facebook and Instagram. And my blog of geeky things. Wait for the thing. Respect the thing.
Coffee. And hot.
Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Ghostwood. So, of course, Twin Peaks stuff, David Lynch stuff, and what all the other pop culture references that we reference here on the show. That gets a lot of play. And then all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for Southgate Media Group, including, the aforementioned Drunk Cinema, where Xan and I, we kind of took the week off. Xan wasn't feeling very well. Thankfully, she's feeling better, so I'm very happy about that, much relieved. And I'm sure Xan is as well.
Oh, yeah.
So last time for our 007th episode, we discussed Goldfinger from the Sean Connery James Bond era, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And then coming up for our 8th episode, when we get it recorded, will be Xan's request. Speaking of the 1950s, a 1950s classic, Forbidden Planet, which yours truly has not seen in its entirety.
Wow, that's impressive.
Then after that, I'm going to turn the tables on Xan, and we're going to watch a movie that she has not seen.
Yeah, didn't you send me a list?
I did, but I'm not going to discuss that just yet. I'm going to keep that under wraps for now.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll talk about that more when we discuss.
There were more episodes there were more movies that I had seen than I think you had thought that I had seen.
Well, no, because I pitched you 6, and you said I had only seen one of them.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I'd only seen one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was feeling pretty good. I was like, I'm amazed that I got 5 out of 6.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So I was pretty good. I was very happy with that. I would have got I was going to suggest John Wick, but for whatever reason I didn't. And I guess it was a good thing because that would have been another one.
Yeah, it's a good thing because I already watched that already and now I want a beagle.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Oh, that dog is so cute. It made me so sad.
We still had John Wick's 2 and 3 to go through if you want.
I guess so. So.
All right. Then also, let's see, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where yours truly and Jesse Jackson, we just talked The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone with comic book artist and writer Tom Zoller returning. So that was a lot of fun. We got to talk more Doctor Who Series 5 from the Matt Smith era. And then coming up next for episode 225, well, a certain Ghostwood co-host with the most, Xan Sprouse, is going to be joining us, along with Holly Mack from the 5-ish Fangirls podcast. And the 4 of us are going to discuss a classic from the John Pertwee era, The Three Doctors, featuring, of course, Patrick Troughton and little cameos here and there from William Hartnell, because William Hartnell was pretty sick at the time and not up to doing the full episodes. Yeah, this is actually 2 doctors
in a Zoom call.
Yeah. Still more than what we got with Tom Baker in the 5 Doctors, but
that's true. Yeah, it's kind of like 2 doctors in a Zoom call. Hartnell is at least on this, but he's like being broadcast on television, so it's like he's on Zoom while the other 2 doctors are there.
Which I think is an awesome comparison.
Because he had to be seated, he couldn't really walk around, so they just had him on television.
Yeah, so you definitely want to tune in for that. That's going to be coming up next week, so stay tuned for that, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun.
But Tom Baker made up for it, you know.
Oh, he did in The Day of the Doctor, yeah.
In The Day of the Doctor, yeah, which I screamed.
As the great curator.
As a great curator, who knows?
Who knows?
But,
the voice.
I'd
rather think you might. Yes.
I heard that voice and I screamed out loud, and Chris, he's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Don't come in here. Don't watch this. You haven't seen this yet. Don't watch it."
Right.
So unfortunately I spoiled it for Chris when that happened, but
I heard rumors that it might happen, so I was hoping, and as soon as I heard the voice too, I'm just like,
you're like,
oh my god, they got him. I was so happy.
Yeah,
I was so happy about that. Also, the Phantom Zone podcast, where DJ Nick and I are currently, we just recorded this past week the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe show appearing on Disney Plus, which was a very good discussion, a lot of fun. You know, it's a much more straightforward show, a little bit, than WandaVision, but it does seem to have some surprises along the way. And Anthony Mackie is great, Sebastian Stan is great, and we're going to be discussing those for 5 more episodes.
Cool.
So that should be a lot of fun. And other than that, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Hope you're enjoying our on the air reviews. These blasts from the past. And certainly for me, because
our deep dives.
Because like I told Xan, I hadn't seen this episode for like 25 years until today, watching it
nice.
for this episode. I barely remembered it, but I had a lot of fun watching it, and I hope you had fun listening to us talk about it.
Yeah, I hope so too, because these are hidden gems of the David Lynch universe, I think.
Exactly. So next time at Ghostwood, of course, we did the first 2 episodes that aired. So we're going to talk the third and the final one, of course, for episode 96. So next time is On the Air, episode 1.5. Remember? 135, like we were talking about. So this will be the third and final transmitted episode, not produced, but transmitted episode of On the Air from 1992.
Yes. 135, not quite 149, but still pretty good.
Yes, exactly. All right. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. Xan, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Don't take medicine intended for dogs.
There you go. I think that's
my advice.
That's almost like what did we learn today, Xan?
What did we learn today? We do not have a veterinarian come and try and cure us of our flu symptoms.
And remember, keep your heads down and look for Professor Answers IQ. In the meantime, Come on back, episode 96 of Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. Bye, everybody.